Hello. If you're like me and my clients, you probably feel like you've tried everything. And while we have tried everything under the sun, most of the plans and food approaches that we've tried assume that food is more powerful than we are. Spoiler alert, we are already powerful. However, our story has taken some of our power away, specifically in areas of our life where we aren't 100% confident in. However, we can reclaim all our power. In today's video, I'm going to share with you some healthy rebels who bravely chose to diagnose and look at their story and then courageously chose to own it, to liberate themselves for their own truce with food. So thanks for being here, Sara. How did it feel to recognize that your story was the reason that you fell off track with eating, not because you didn't have enough willpower or discipline?
It was wonderfully validating and made me feel like I was not a failure, that it was not always my lack of control or inadequacy, lack of willpower, lack of whatever you call it, that made me fail. It was easier to see, well, this is what's driving my behavior, and let's look at this, and let's look at it without judgment and without I'm searching for a word, rancor, perhaps, without the self-recrimination. Let's just look at it like you would a symptom. Since I'm in the medical field, since, like you would a group of symptoms. Let's just look at it, see where it takes us.
Oh, I love that. I love the metaphor. Exactly. It's just a symptom. So you have said that Truce with Food helped save your life by helping you save yourself. And I'm curious, what has changed in your life? What has changed with your food and health as a result of owning your story instead of trying to add more food rules or go to a different food plan?
It has enabled me to look at what I eat and recognize when I'm in the chuck it mode, or in a place where I want to be a willing participant, perhaps, rather than an unwilling rider along on the bus route. I don't feel the need to jump onto every passing bandwagon of diet programs, or when everybody at work is saying, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that or whatever. I don't feel the need to join into that and to buy into that structured eating, outside structured eating plan, I think.
Yeah.
Where someone else is dictating what you do and what you eat, and you can have this much carrots today or this much oatmeal, or it's learning to work with your body and what works with you.
Yeah, I love how you describe that chuck it, F it, mode versus,
Yeah.
I do want to have something here and there. There's so much freedom in recognizing the difference when you're actively choosing certain foods versus, and then knowing why if you're in chuck it, whatever mode that we call. We're not saying the swear word on the video, everybody.
Yes, that's why I didn't say that.
Yeah, it's chuck it, F it mode.
Do I say this word? No, I don't.
And when we say that, we're in our story. So that's what Sara was talking
well,
about.
and I've been in my story the last few days, so I have been kind of chuck it.
Yeah. And yet, isn't it interesting though, that because of the self-trust that you've developed, you don't need to get on that bandwagon, that you have the tools to be able to, when you're ready, to x-ray and figure out what's happening in your own time,
Yes.
instead of putting more restriction on yourself, right? Which is not what we need.
Correct. And because I know myself, and I knew this about myself before Truce with Food, but Truce with Food only reinforced it, that when I have a bunch of restrictions, I'm going to rebel. I'm going to rebel. It just, if you tell me you can't ever eat this again, then by God, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, me too. That was my problem too.
Whether it makes me feel like crap, or I know it's not good for me, I know it'll make me sick, I'm still going to eat it, damn it, because you said I can't have it. So,
well, when you look at adult development, adults don't like their autonomy being taken away, but that's exactly what diets do to us. So it goes
yes,
against human nature.
yes, they do. And it automatically assumes that someone else knows better than you do about your own body. And I've lived with this body for 64 years now, and I think I know it fairly well. I know what makes it work. I know what makes it not work. And for someone outside to say, well, no, you have to do this and this and this and this, then if three of the thises don't work for me, what am I left with? Feeling like a failure.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know we've all gone through that cycle for sure, when we just focus on listening to other people. So what else has changed in your life as a result of becoming more authoritative and confident in that authority, as a result of
I
owning your story?
I think I am way more willing to stand up for myself when and not just around food, but in the whole boss kind of mindset. I got my evaluation at work yesterday, and it was a really good evaluation, but the one comment they had was that sometimes when in certain situations I need to watch my communication because I come across as rude and unfriendly. Well, I'm not rude and unfriendly, I'm just direct.
Mm-hmm.
I see what needs to happen, and maybe I don't say it in all nice and flowers. And Susie, would you go over and get me the piece of equipment right over there? And no, I'm like, I need the such and so. So, I guess that's been one good aspect, is that I'm willing to say and be direct.
And if you were a man, you'd be considered a superstar for doing that, right?
Yes.
Clear
Yeah, but
communicator.
a woman doing that, oh no, she's rude and unfriendly.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that you can still stand. And I want to be direct. And for people watching, Sara is an OR nurse. So you want your nurses to be direct in the OR. Like, it's a really valuable skill. Right?
It is a valuable skill.
I don't want any ambiguity when I'm under,
When I'm taking care of you, I don't want any ambiguity either.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So what would you explain when I told you that you can't fail at owning your story as long as you keep trying?
I didn't think it was possible.
Mm.
I didn't. It took me a little bit to realize what my story was, and that your story is made up of many different pieces. It's not just one all-encompassing thing. Every day you have a different story. You may have one overarching sort of style, if you would, but every day you have to get up and tackle your feelings. Every day you have to get up and tackle whatever challenges that day has. And realizing that this is just part of my story and not a permanent thing. And that I can change my story. I can change the way I react. I can change the way I behave. Or not. You can choose to not change too. It's all a choice, and it's up to you. And knowing that I could not fail at it as long as I continued to follow the process takes away that feeling of defeat and that feeling of, oh, I can't do this. I could never be successful at this. Well, yes, you can. Yeah, you can. May not be easy. You may not want to be there sometimes.
Right.
but and it ebbs and flows, and that's okay. Sometimes you may be a little overwhelmed with how much your story you see. And it's okay to back off. It's okay. But it's also okay to plunge forward and work on it. And people around you are going to notice the changes. You may get some pushback. Nature abhors a vacuum, and people who have been reacting to you in a certain way may not like the new you so much, or may have to get used to it. So, I mean, even I've had to get used to the new Sara.
Yeah. And I think I mean, you said so many great things. And one of the important points is that, yes, sometimes we want to choose to back off, and that's okay. We have to trust our own ebb and flow, as you say. And I think trusting when we pull back that we're still going to then at other times leap forward or just move at a whatever pace it is, builds that self-trust. Because if it's always going well, then you don't really learn kind of what you're made of, right?
Yes. I mean, if it's always going well and smoothly, then there's no opportunity to look at your own resiliency as a person. And sometimes you do need to pull back. If the information is too overwhelming at that moment, pull back a little bit. It will get easier. And when you're faced with a new challenge and a new part of your story, work on it a little bit and then pull back, and then work on it a little bit more. And pretty soon you'll be through whatever challenge you're facing right then.
Yeah. Oh, I love your candor. Well, so that makes me think about, when you first signed up for Truce With Food, were you nervous that you might finish or get lost?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, what am I getting myself into? Shit. But, I had read that story. I had read Laura's story in Prevention. And again, the timing of the universe was impeccable for me to see that. I don't normally pick up magazines like that at the grocery store, and I did. And I was like, wow, that really resonates with me. And I looked you up on the website, and I kind of looked a little bit up about, and kind of went in further and further and looking, and I was like, wow, maybe I could do this. And then I had to talk to Carolyn about the money thing, because it was a lot of money. But it's also, one day when we were boxing and paying for boxing lessons and all of that, I was like, we can't afford this. And she's like, we can't not afford this. And when I first took tapas, it was kind of like, you can't not afford to do this. And then when I took the full Truce with Food course, after I had taken tapas, it was like, I have to do this. I have to explore this avenue.
I'm so glad you listened to yourself.
Well, for once I did. For once I didn't let everyone else dictate for me.
Yeah, that's easy to do. And just for everyone watching, why am I eating this now? It used to be called Truce with Food Tapas Style. So now it's called Why I'm Eating This Now. And then my client, Laura Jacobs, was in Prevention Magazine. And that's what Sarah's talking about. She saw. So how, I'm curious how beneficial you thought it was to work in a small, intimate group of other people working on their story in Truce with Food.
Loved it. I loved it. In the small, intimate group, in the classroom, was so helpful. We kind of got to know each other, and we weren't close to everyone in the group per se, but there were those of us who sort of formed relationships online and would look for each other. And if we didn't see a response from someone, we would put out a little feeler. How are you doing? It was far more accessible than any kind of large group or anything like, or even working one-on-one with someone. It was really helpful to hear and read other people's responses to the lessons, other people's insights were invaluable to me. I'm hoping that everyone else had that same feeling. Even now, since the course is over, I still look for posts and responses from some of the people that I grew close to and wonder how they are. In the Facebook group, I wonder, how's Lori? How's Christy? And I just, it's part of my caretaker lifestyle, I guess, to hope that they're doing okay and hope that they are finding the lessons helpful and succeeding within themselves.
Yeah. When you share that kind of connection, when you're all working on similar things and having similar conversations, it creates such an instant intimacy, because you're just, and I mean, everyone goes at their own pace sharing what they want to share, but
yeah,
there's such a common bond that it's really easy to grow close to people and stuff like that. So lastly, I would like to ask, what do you know now to be true about food, your body, and health from owning your story?
I know that no food is truly off limits unless it's something you're allergic to. If it makes your throat close up and you can't breathe, then yes, you can't have that.
Yeah.
But I can handle it. If somebody brings in a plate of cookies to work and leaves them in the lounge, I can handle it. I might have one. I might choose to not have any. But before, I would not have been able to do that. I had hoped through Truce with Food to have the weight magically fall off. Didn't happen. But at the same time, I am looking at my choices. I'm planning. I plan our menus, makes it easy on the grocery shopping, makes it easy on weeknight, busy weeknight meal prep. And it helps me to eat within the boundaries that I need to eat within. You know, the things, it helps me stay away from the things that I know are going to make me feel awful. The things that maybe the next day will have some hangover per se. But if I want a piece of chocolate, I eat a piece of chocolate. You know, if we're out at a restaurant and I want dessert, I eat dessert. We were out last weekend with some dear friends of ours, and normally we get, Carolyn and I would split a steak and split a salad, and she would get a potato and I would get a vegetable. And before we went, I said, I want this to eat and I want this salad, and that's what I want. And I would never have ever done that before. And I ate that and I was perfectly happy with it.
I love that. That ultimately really getting clear on our needs is what this is about. And food is one of those needs, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
to be able to advocate for yourself is great. I love that. So,
you know, when you've used food for comfort for as long as I have, it's hard to not continue to see it as comfort, and not get tied up in that circle of it. But it's Truce with Food has enabled me to step back and say, okay, I want this and this tonight, instead of all of the other myriad choices I would have made in the past.
I love that discernment of our needs, right? Not what
Yes.
everyone else is saying, not what the diets tell me I think I should, not what not what the fad new diet book is of 2019. We'll see what that is when
Yep.
it comes out.
Yep, because you know there's going to be one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The fad food and the fad exercise. You know there's going to be just, and those people will be millionaires because people buy that.
Yeah.
You know, the folks that are putting out these new ways per se, we're like lemmings. We're gullible. We want the magic. We want the fast fix. We don't want the hard work.
I know.
But the hard work is so much more worth it.
Yeah. Although, do you think, and this is one thing I wonder about myself, like if I had known, if it had been more in the consciousness when I was dieting and struggling with food, that it wasn't just about the food, you know, because I grew up in the 80s, Richard Simmons, heyday, you know,
Oh, yeah.
the whole deal. I mean, I've done it all.
Oh, yeah.
And you remember Deal a Meal? Like, I don't know.
Absolutely. I did deal a meal.
Yeah, me too. You got the cards, all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think things have started to shift in the last several years that, wait, maybe it isn't just about the food. And I wonder if, you know, if Truce with Food or anything else that is research-based and gives us a clear process to get out of this, I think more of us would choose that if we knew that that was available. Because I feel like for the first, it has only been till recently that people have started saying, maybe this isn't about the food. So I don't know.
You know, before Truce with Food, I had worked with an eating disorders therapist, and she was wonderful and she was good, and she truly helped me get out of a life-ending spiral. And I'm grateful to her every day. But and she knew it was not about the food. She knew it was about what's going on behind it. I was not ready to hear all she had to say. I think my work with her made me ready to hear that it's not all about the food, and that I do have a hand in controlling this. I can figure this out for myself. I don't have to have someone prescribe this to me.
That's a good point. when we're ready to hear it.
Yes, yes, because 10 years ago, I would not have been ready to hear it. I was still ready to bash myself over the head and say, you're worthless. You can't do this. You're awful. You're terrible. And stuff my face anyway. You know,
Yeah.
when I had the gastric bypass, before I had it, there had been one particular surgeon at work who that was one of his cash cow surgeries. And he did a lot of them. And he kept telling me, asking me, why don't you have a bypass? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And I would look at him every day and say, because it's another way for me to fail.
Mm.
Well, ultimately, I did have it. Ultimately, yes, I was very successful with it. But then I learned that you can eat a little bit of chocolate. And 20 minutes later, you can eat a little bit more. 30 minutes later, you could eat a little bit of this. You could eat a little. There are certain things that I cannot eat, and I won't violate that, but you could eat mashed potatoes or any number of things that they tell you never to eat again. Well, yeah, if I were to eat a whole bag of chocolates, yes, my stomach would hurt like all get out. I would be laying there writhing on the bed. We call them come to Jesus moments. And in the obesity help groups. But you learn that you can go to the edge of the water and put your toes in. Hey, nothing happened. So you go back to the edge of the water and you put your toes back in. Nothing happens. So you just keep doing that and doing it. And so ultimately what I told the surgeon, that it's just another way for me to fail, sort of came true, because I had lost almost 100 pounds and gained back about 50 or 60. So had I had Truce with Food then, maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have trusted. Or if I had had Truce with Food then, maybe I wouldn't have felt the need to do such a radical change in my body.
Yeah. Or sometimes we have to exhaust ourselves, to your point earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason I gave up dieting. I was just too tired. If I had still had some fight left in me, I probably would have still been doing it. You know what I mean? So we kicked off, before we even started recording, about trusting timing and things like that. And I think the important thing is now you are so much back in your power and in choice. And you know that you can continue to be there further and further, which is the important thing, right?
Yes, it is the important thing.
Yeah.
It is the important thing.
Yeah. Well, it's been so fun working with you. And thank you so much for your time, Sara.
Oh, Allie, I'm so happy to do this. And if what I say can help one person on their journey, then it's worth it.
Yeah. You're going to help a lot of people know that they can turn this around, for sure.
It may be hard while you're doing it, but it is so worth it. It's worth the work. It's worth the result. So
mic drop. We'll end there. When you understand the root cause of what causes you to battle food, and you have someone support you to rewrite your story, so much food and life freedom and possibility are waiting for you. As you can see from my clients' stories, yes, you stop fighting food, and that is hugely relieving. And you also get back time, energy, and self-trust that would allow you to live a life aligned with your radical truth. Maybe that's a better job making more money, or it's parenting in your own style, or it's having deeper, more fulfilling relationships, or it's getting your period back so you can have children and having your skin clear up. I wonder, what would you choose to write into your story if you knew that you could.